Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jenny Hastings, and I am the Optima Solution Specialist here at Bytespeed. Today, we are very lucky to be joined by the amazing John Orender and Roland Hamilton of Optima, who will take us into a deeper dive of the Optima IFPs. So right now we have our Series 3 panels, so they'll kind of go over those details and then some other great information on what Optima can offer. So if you have any questions, please add them to the chat window and I will do my best to address them during the presentation. Otherwise, we'll make sure that everything is answered at the end. We have a dedicated space for that. So on that note, I'll hand it over to you, John.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great day so far and a good week. I know we're all kind of getting back from spring break and getting into the swing of things here before summer. So hopefully everyone's having a nice spring and has some nice weather. But like Jenny said, I'm John Orender. I'm with Optima Technology. I'm the regional sales manager for the Midwest. That just basically means I get to travel around and see all your beautiful faces in person. So we've got Roland Hamilton here, who's actually going to be the main star of the show today. As you can see, he's got one of our great 75-inch interactive flat panels there in his home office, which is just amazing to be able to have, live demos like this. So we're going to dive into a few things here, but again, we don't want to take too much of your time talking speeds and feeds. So we're really going to make this kind of an interactive kind of webinar, not one of those ones where you just go and read things you could read online. So we're going to get a little bit into, who's Optima, what do we do, what are we capable of? The main focus, like I said, is going to be the creative touch of our interactive flat panels, which you'll hear us refer to as IFPs. Additionally, we do have some really new exciting products that are more of the static display that just launched this last month. We're really excited about those. Kind of gives us the full solution, and we can kind of tie it all in together with some of our software solutions. So just a little bit of background on Optima. We've been around for 25 years almost. We have the benefit of being under the big wing of Coretronics, so we're a smaller company here in the U.S. that gets to work under the big wing of a multinational company like Coretronics. So our headquarters are in Fremont, California, which is fantastic because that's actually where our support center is as well. So if you're an IT person or you work in IT or have to work with customer service, you know how important it is to be able to communicate with someone clearly. So the benefit of a lot of people in the middle of the country that Roland and I like to talk about is the ability to have support pretty much 12 hours of the day because they get up early on the West Coast, right? And then they're there as long as I'm here on the East Coast working in my office. So if you ever have any issues or if you have questions, usually you're going to get an answer here pretty quickly, which is great. Optima is the #1 in 4K UHD worldwide, as well as the DLP worldwide as well. So what we're going to dive into today is not necessarily going to be along these lines here, but I wanted to just hit on it real quick as far as, while we're going to be talking interactive flat panels primarily because that's kind of the goal of this webinar, we do have other solutions in the projector space. That's kind of where our bread and butter is, as you just saw on that last slide by our awards. We can do anywhere from the smaller portable huddle rooms all the way up to the large venue. We actually have a big focus on those larger venues this year. We have some really great products that came out. Bytespeed has the ability to sell you all of these products as well as help with installs, with questions. We have technical managers such as Roland and myself who can answer and help you design these rooms. And we can go anywhere from a classroom up to an auditorium to a gymnasium. So we have solutions in all these different areas as far as lumens and what you need for ambient lighting, all those things. So feel free to reach out. I can send some follow-up stuff to this as well, making sure you have all that documentation. But again, I don't want to talk your ears off while Roland's got a fun presentation ahead of us here. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Roland here. Like Jenny mentioned, if you do have questions, feel free to put those into the chat. And we also will have a designated time at the end to answer any, further questions that may come up during the presentation. So thanks again for joining us and enjoy the demo.
Thanks, John. Let me just spotlight my screen. Hi, everyone. I'm Roland Hamilton, Tech Sales Optima, which means that I'm a tech guy who just happens to work on the sales team. I love technology. I love working with it. I love talking about it. So let's get into it. I have here in my home office a 65-inch Creative Touch interactive board. When I stand in front of this board, it looks like it could be a 55-inch or something, but this thing's 5 feet wide. What we'd like to cover today, I'll really tell you the basics of the board, right? Because we might have some people who haven't worked with interactive panels before. I'm just going to give you a quick synopsis of what they are, what they can do, the basic capabilities, and then I'm going to focus really on the points of differentiation, right? What does Optima offer that you won't find from other brands out there, right? And so to tell you a little bit about the boards themselves, They're available in three sizes: 65, 75, and 86-inch diagonal. All three sizes are 4K UHD. So, you know, if you put these in front of folks doing graphic design or CAD design or looking at artwork or video editing, they're fantastic displays. Because they're commercial panels, they're very bright. They're going to be a lot brighter than the consumer television set you might be used to. So if your school is currently using projectors, or you've had projectors in your classrooms in the past and you've had challenges with ambient light, you know, maybe you have some big windows in the classrooms and the projectors just haven't been bright enough, the interactive panels are certainly going to solve all those problems because they're very bright displays. And being available in those three sizes, 65, 75, and 86-inch, you can certainly choose the size that's appropriate for the room in terms of letting everyone in the room clearly see what's going on screen, right? And in addition to these being fantastic displays, let me just go to the home screen. These are also 40-point touchscreens, right? So no matter what is on screen, and let me choose a more fun color here. Let's get like this hot pink color, right? You can always do markup on screen. And let me just zoom in a little bit because I want to show you as well how, because these are commercial panels, the glass is 7H hardness rated, anti-glare, anti-fingerprint tempered glass. So 7H hardness rating is effectively the scratch resistance of quartz crystal. So I can take my regular set of keys and I'm not afraid of scratching the board. It's super scratch resistant. It's going to stand up to the abuse that your kiddos might deliver, right? And I always like to demo the palm erase feature. Anytime you have writing on screen, you can always just erase it. Before we move on, want to just point out the boards do have 20-watt stereo speakers. So more than enough sound for your typical classroom size, you know, 20 by 30. I will point out that they do have, there are tons of inputs and outputs, and I'd really rather focus today on what you can do with the boards rather than tech specs, but just realize that there are a whole plethora of inputs and outputs, and these can integrate very well. If you want to put one in your auditorium and connect it to your PA system, or you have an audio system in place and you want to connect this to your digital signal processor, all the inputs and outputs are there to use these in very flexible ways. There's an HDMI monitor output that lets you mirror what's on screen onto other displays. Like if you have, say we're talking higher education and you have a lecture hall with confidence monitors, you can mirror the output from the board onto other displays. It's great for webcasting and even hybrid learning, which I know isn't such a focus anymore, but you never know what's going to happen. So just realize that the boards have a ton of connectivity and they're very flexible. So what can you do with the boards? There are three main modes of use plus casting. So out of the box, the boards, think of them like a giant Android tablet. And I've only loaded a small selection of apps here. The boards come preloaded with the web browser, the document viewer, the media player. At the beginning, I was playing that airplane video. That's just playing back off the board itself. We make available so some of the apps come preloaded, and we make a further selection of apps available from our app store. Optoma has its own app store. I can tell you that all the major video teleconference apps are available. So just add a webcam to the unit and you can use Zoom, Teams, Skype, WebEx, and GoToMeeting are all available. You see I have Google Earth installed, and there are a selection of K-12 specific apps available. So Class Dojo, Kahoot, Khan Academy, Socrative, Quizzes, Duolingo. Those are just some of the more popular ones I get asked about. But for now, just understand that out of the box, give the board power and internet, and there's a ton you can do with just the board itself. And we're going to circle back and talk about the whiteboard software, which is pretty much the key piece of software that's on the board itself. You can also connect your external computers. So we are plug and play compatible with Windows, Mac OS, Chrome OS, as well as Linux platforms. So if you wanted to put these in your STEM lab and connect Raspberry Pi, they're plug and play compatible with all those device types. If your teachers are using Windows laptops, Mac, they have desktops, the kids have Chromebooks, these are plug and play compatible with all those platforms. You just connect the computer, you know, Windows spins for a second and says configuring your device, and it just works, right? The third mode of use, we also sell slotting computers. Bytespeed can quote you. We sell an i5 and an i7 card slot PC that physically install in the side of the board. And at that point, the board is basically a giant Windows 10 or Windows 11 all in one, right? In addition to those three modes of use, and when I say modes of use, you're not locked into those modes, right? Like if I want to do something in my Android system, here I am in my Android system. If I want to jump over to my connected computer, it's as quick as hitting the button, which is labeled for me. You know, you're not locked into any of these modes of use. You can jump back and forth on the fly. In addition to those primary modes of use, we also offer the ability to cast to the boards from all the major device types. So you can cast from iOS, from Android, from Windows, from Mac, from Chromebook. Depending on the device you're using, you'll do it slightly differently, right? Like I've got my iPhone and I'm gonna start casting my screen from my iPhone up to the board. And I can do that using the native AirPlay protocol. I don't have to install any software. I can just start casting as if the board were an Apple TV, and there's the Battleship North Carolina, which is a few miles from home for me. I will point out that you can, some special or some particular features which you might be interested in regarding casting, you can wirelessly cast the full Windows desktop and have touch control. So you don't, you know, if you want to connect the Windows computer and be able to control it via touch, you don't even have to physically wire it to the board. You can use our the Creative Cast Sender app installed on the PC and wirelessly cast the audio and video, you know, the picture and the sound up to the board and have touch control over it. So there are some of the basics of what the boards are, what they can do, right? If there's any questions, please pop them in the chat. Let me now dive into some of the unique benefits from Optoma, right? What does our board offer that's different from the others out there? And we have a limited amount of time, so I'm not going to be able to cover everything. So please, please don't assume that if you don't see something, we don't offer it. There are a lot of things we offer and a lot of little bells and whistles and great features that I just don't have time to talk about. I'm really just talking about the high level differentiators, right? And I will say, go ahead.
We have a couple of questions in the chat if you just want to
Sure.
answer these really quick. So
Sure, go ahead.
this is running Android OS. What version of it? Do you
So
know?
this run Android 11.
Okay, Android
And
11.
this board is rather unique in the sense that it is upgradable. So most boards of this type, when they ship with a certain Android version on them, it's stuck on that version of Android. You know, the manufacturer may provide updates, but with most manufacturers, you're stuck on whatever Android version it ships on. We ship these on Android 11. There is the possibility in the future they are upgradable. I'm not saying they're definitely going to be upgraded to Android 13 at some point, but the capability is there. And we do roll out updates typically on a quarterly basis to make improvements, add new functions and features, fix any problems that may have arisen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then as far as App Store costs, are all of the apps free on Optoma's App Store?
Everything is free, including the applications. We don't charge for anything. Once you purchase the boards and you've bought them outright, none of the software has any cost associated with it. It's yours forever, and we support it as well.
Perfect. Awesome. And then there's a couple other ones. Does the Creative Cast also work to touch control the casted screen of a MacBook?
It does. It does.
Awesome. And then any NFC login options
Well,
for what was that? Go ahead.
not NFC on this model. We are planning on launching a new model. It's going to launch in the next month or two and probably ship in June. That model, I do believe, has an add-on module that can read NFC cards, but on this model, no NFC. But the next thing I was going to show you is a very easy way and secure and easy way to log into whatever cloud service you want to get logged into.
Yeah, and I'll tag along that one, Roland. I appreciate you reading these, Jenny. I just saw a couple, but I saw the next question is on those EDLA as far as the certifications go, which clearly we're hearing more and more about that. That's great. I can answer that and say that along with that NFC question, that's going to be kind of on that next model here coming out in the next month or so. So it's actually launching in May, but it'll be shipping in June, and that'll be in the same sizes. It'll kind of be the good and better is what we're going with. So that'll be the 5 series. So that was the question that I saw in there as well. There was an EDLA one and the 3 and the 5. So the 5 series Gen 3 will be our kind of exciting summer launch. And that will have the EDLA certifications, as well as, like he said, we should be able to do that NFC solution as well. So appreciate all the questions. This is great.
Thank you. Yeah, so straight into the login topic, right? I know NFC cards, which for those of you who may not know, it's like one of those little cards that you can keep around your neck on a lanyard or on like a retractable thing clipped to your belt, and you can kind of sign in just by tapping your card on the board. We have our own solution for secure sign-in. It's sign-in via QR code. So you can, if I want to sign into either my Google, my Microsoft account, or an Optoma account that I create, if I don't want to involve Google or Microsoft, I can enter my password on screen, but I'm sure you can imagine the issue with entering a password on screen is that everybody sees the password you're entering. So we have developed this QR code sign-on option. I can take my phone, scan this QR code, and it lets me sign on via my phone. Now, because my phone stores my Google credential, I don't even have to enter my password. I'm basically confirming which one of my accounts I want to sign into because I have several stored on this phone. And in just a second, I've now completed the process on my phone that quickly, and I'm now signed in. And that populates, that does a couple things. One, it populates my entire Google Drive on the board. So if I go into the file manager, I now have under cloud storage, and let me zoom the screen again so you can see a little better. I now have my Google Drive populated. I could also manually add my OneDrive if I want to. But let's go into the whiteboard software, which is really the key piece of software on the board, right? What we find a lot of the time is that users most often use these connected to external computer, right? Most teachers are already working with either a Windows laptop, a MacBook, or a Chrome device, right? And we find that most schools are using these connected to external computers. The big exception being the whiteboard software, because it's really powerful. I'm going to show you some unique ways to kind of integrate it with your existing content that you've already developed, whether it's Google Slides or it's on a PC. So let's talk a little bit about the whiteboard software, and let me add a new page, and let me just change the background to no background. So I'm going to tell you quickly about the basic tools, right? And a lot of this stuff is kind of standard, so I'm going to focus on the things that are unique. But just to cover some of the basics, you can change the backgrounds to whatever color you want, right? So if I want something fun or bright, or I have a specific purpose, I like to demo with these gray backgrounds because they're good on camera. They're high contrast and easy on the eyes. We also offer over 130 different pre-made background templates. And let me zoom the camera so you can see a little better. These background templates cover all the major K-12 subjects: reading, writing, math, science, geography, geology. Like if I go to science, for example, I can bring up a periodic table of elements background, and then we can start marking up on it, right? Here's the noble gases or what have you. Let me clear this. I think I put into this file some examples of the background. So periodic table backgrounds. Here's a simpler one, for the lower grades, pre-K, first grade, something along those lines, right? And you're not constrained by the backgrounds because they are, at the end of the day, the backgrounds are really just 16:9 images. So you can load your own. If you take your own content and save it as an image file, you can utilize the backgrounds in that manner. Very quickly, I'll just point out how math teachers are going to love these because it's very easy to just create XY axes and start graphing, as well as the fact that we have built in 2D and 3D shape tools, along with rulers, protractors, speed squares, right? And there are lots of unique features in the sense that writing will snap to the square. If you set an angle on the protractor, it'll let you draw a line at that angle. All these tools are really very usable, as well as providing a lot of functionality. Let's talk quickly about the dual tip pen. So you've seen that I've been manipulating this board with my finger. You can use your fingers on the board, but you get some added benefit when you use our pens, right? In conjunction with the floating toolbar, called the floating toolbar because you can drag it around the screen. Not only can I drag it, I can also press and hold and the toolbar snaps to where I want it. So a lot of our competitors put all the tools at the edge of the screen where you constantly have to move to the edge to find the tool you're looking for. We've made it very simple in the sense that you can just call the floating toolbar and choose whatever drawing tool it is you need, right? Or shape tool. Everything's pretty much available from this toolbar. The pens. I can choose a different function on either side of the pen. So if, for example, I want the fine point on my pen to be this blue marker, I can flip the pen around to the other side and choose a different function. Let's say I want this orange highlighter. I now have the blue pen on one side and the orange highlighter on the other side. So it's super handy to be able to program dual functions. Again, the palm erase feature lets me clear that easily. Something that is kind of unique, although it's becoming more kind of standard, just want to point out that we offer it. I can turn my handwriting into text. It then has this, I'll accept that. I can resize this, move it around, make it bold, italic, change the font, what have you. On our next software release, we are planning on updating this with a translate feature, where once you have a word that's been recognized and converted to text, there'll be a drop-down box where you can change this into any one of about a dozen different languages. So all this stuff I've shown you so far, it works really well, but it's all pretty standard. Let's talk about some of the more unique items. We have embedded a web browser in our whiteboard, right? This is a standalone web browser, which I can move around. I can resize. I can float it off screen when I'm not using it and kind of bring it back when I want to use it. It's handy for looking up information, but you can also drag and drop images from the browser. And we've gone a step beyond the browser. On this latest version, we have embedded a video and image search window where if I want a picture of Abraham Lincoln, I can just type in Lincoln and it's going to populate all the Google search results. I want this picture. I click import. I can then close this, grab Lincoln, resize him, and start drawing right on top of it. So it's super easy to go out and find engaging content and bring it into the whiteboard space. I will point out that the image search and the YouTube search options are filtered. So if you go to YouTube and you type in dance, you get ballet, not some of the stuff you might find on mainstream YouTube, right? Couple features I want to point out. The import function. Well, I'll point out something else as well before we talk about the import function. Just as the browser opens in its own floating window, we have the ability to open up a camera window in its own floating window within the whiteboard space. So if you have USB document cameras or USB microscopes, those can open in their own dedicated window that can be resized and moved around. I do want to touch on the import function. You can bring into the whiteboard space documents, images, whether they're on the local storage or on the cloud. Because I signed into my cloud, here's my cloud account. I can bring in PDFs. You can load content right in the space. But one thing I want to show you in particular, let's just go to this generic Google Slides document. You can import, we've added the ability to import Google Slides files as backgrounds. And this, I think, is a really popular option with educators because so many people have developed content in Google Slides. And if you have existing PowerPoint content, it's easy to transfer into Google Slides. And here, when I select a Google Slides file, it doesn't force me to import all the slides. It gives me a choice. I just want to import these 3 slides. I click import, and it's going to make those slides backgrounds on different pages of my file now. And I can go in and start marking up and then move to the next slide, use my highlighter, what have you, right? So being able to import Google Slides is a big one. Let me just start a new page just so there's a clean space. I want to show you another really unique feature from Optoma. We have developed an embedded Google Classroom menu within our whiteboard system. So this is the first time this is a brand new file. So when I first go to it, it says select my class. I've just created a dummy course called pre-algebra, but an actual teacher would probably have a list there of all their Google classes that they've developed. Now that I paired it, if I go back to the menu, it opens up an embedded menu with all the materials that are part of that Google class. I can choose quiz 1, for example, which is just something it's a quiz I developed on linear functions, right? And it opens in its own dedicated window, which I can actually fill the form as I move through it, or I can just use this as space to, okay, let's talk about these, the correct answer. Let's work through the problem, right? The other huge piece of the whiteboard platform from Optoma is that we have developed a web interface for this space. And it's a lot to talk about. We don't have enough time to really cover it the way it should be covered. But basically, you go to a website, creativeboard.optoma.com. Just spell Optoma right, Optoma, creativeboard.optoma.com. You can log in there and access the whiteboard space through a web browser. You can invite your students. You can invite an entire Google class at once to have viewer access to the file. As a teacher, there's two huge benefits to it. One, as a teacher, it lets you develop your content without having to be in front of the board. So you can, during your office time, set up your files, apply your backgrounds, put some content, set up the layout basically. And then when you get in front of the board, you log into the board, you go to your file list, you find the file you developed, and it's exactly the way you left it. So for teachers, it's huge because it lets you work on your files without being in front of the board. Students, the big benefit for them is later, home time, right? Homework time. They can log on to the website, and if you've granted them viewer access, they can see the exact file that you worked on today. Not the textbook, not the workbook, not the notes that they did or didn't take. They can log on and see the exact whiteboard that you developed in class with them, which is really powerful in terms of, the retention of the information. I think you get the point there. And in fact, if anybody wants to join, you can give people access real time where I want to add folks to this. I want to bring up a session code. If you scan this code, it'll take you to a website where you can log right into the board without, and I don't even believe you have to log in. It'll just give you the access to join the board without any login. So real time, you can grant folks access to join your whiteboard session. The other really big piece, and I'll cover one more item concerning the whiteboard. Say I want, the image search box is great, but say I have some advanced content. Like, let me go back to my computer quickly. I want to show you over there. I was demoing on my computer. I'm running this 3D anatomy and biology software, right? Say I want this image in my whiteboard. This is kind of a difficult image to find. I'm not going to be able to find this by just searching chromosome on Google Images. We've developed the cropping snip tool, where when I choose the feature, this cropping window opens up and I can select what it is I want here and say, okay, this is the image I want. I can save this image, right, and do all sorts of things with it, but we've also developed this insert button, which is going to grab that screenshot and put it into my whiteboard, which is huge, because now you have access to simple content through the Google image search, or if you want more advanced content that you're not going to be able to just Google and find, you can easily bring content over from your computer, right? The other big thing we want to talk about is OMS, Optoma Management Suite. Optoma makes available our own device management platform. You could call it an MDM, a multi-device management platform, command and control suite. Basically, it's cloud-based, so it's a website, right? The admins go to the website, they log in, they're in their account, all the boards are paired to their account, and they can control, manage, diagnose, monitor. They can do all sorts of things to manage the boards through the web portal. They can update firmware, they can clone settings from one board to the next. But there are two really big features that I kind of want to show you. And let me just, how do I want to do this? Let me share my screen for a second. here I am on the website, oms.optima.com. I'm going to log into my account just as an admin would. You're going to find that in my account, I only have one device, the board behind me. So let's go to the device list. There's my board, Roland's office. It shows the local, it shows that it's online, shows that I've used it 540 hours. Let's just get right to the feature I want to talk about though. One of the big features is that you can broadcast to these boards. You can send a full screen image. Let's send a full screen image, and I need to move this. Let's go to select file. This is an actual, this was shared with us by a community college in Southern California. Let's say I want to develop, or I want to share this for 20 seconds. I'm going to hit send, and I can go ahead and stop sharing, and you'll see behind me in just a second, I just pushed that through the internet to take over my board and display this message, right? And you can do that on a schedule. So you can use the OMS system as a simple digital signage system. And in fact, that's what this community college is doing. They have these boards in some of their labs that are used for chemistry lab, physics lab, things of that nature. Every time period, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, at those time slots, when it's going to be in use for lab, they have it automatically set to display that lab safety message, right? So you can use that for simple things like, you know, simple signage. When the kids come in the morning, it has like a little announcement board, you know, here's what's for lunch today. Don't forget your orders for the wrapping paper drive, that sort of thing. Or it can be, as you can imagine, more pressing kind of emergency alerts. And all that can be scheduled, and it can also be sent by group. You know, the system allows you to not only address individual devices, but you can set it up where, you know, the second floor of the West Wing. I just want to select that group of displays and send a message just to those displays. The other big part of it, and I know we're running out of time, the other huge piece of it is that the IT department can get trouble alerts if something goes wrong. So say the janitorial staff unplugs a board accidentally. It's now offline. An email can go out to all the appropriate folks saying room 105 is no longer, room 105 has been disconnected. And they can go and investigate why room 105, why they got that message, and they can fix it before a teacher ever has to send an email, you know, or get on the phone saying, hey, room 105 stopped working. You can see it happen real time and proactively address those issues. That just about, John, is there anything particularly you want me to cover that I missed? There's a nice high level overview of the Creative Touch solution from Optima.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it, Roland. I think that was great. And again,
Yeah.
you're trying to consolidate all this information down into a 30 to 40-minute period is always tough. So we're always
It
happy
is
to schedule a
tough.
follow-up with specific questions with you guys as individuals. Like I said, Roland is fantastic and has this in his office. He does these all day, every day. I will say that Optima Management Suite is something that we've really found a lot of value in, especially within the last 12 to 18 months. There's no additional charge to you. I think that's something that we can, kind of hit on a little bit, is the fact that there were some questions as far as, what's the additional cost? What's the subscription? When you buy the board outright, you get all these features built in. So that's not just limited to these interactive flat panels. That's also that OMS management suite includes our projectors, our non-interactive solutions. Everything is covered in that. And you have the ability to do those, like he said, the remote diagnostics, the control, all of that via that great one solution that's not additional charges. So there's a couple more questions here, Roland, if you want me to rattle those off to you, and then we can kind of do a closeout.
Sure.
Yeah, so I can answer the first one for Jeremy. The mounting solutions that we have currently, we have a rolling cart, we have one on the wall. We work with partners like Bytespeed for specific custom solutions like the one that you're mentioning, as far as the one that, you want a rail that goes side to side. There are, manufacturers out there that do specific builds like that, or the ones that tilt a little bit. We have a version in Europe that currently does have a tilt and kind of more of the slide, but right now we have mainly the rolling cart and the wall mount. So if you wanted a custom solution, we could work with Jenny and her team and make sure we got you taken care of there, because that's the value that they're able to bring as well. So I'll have a couple to you here. There's two from Chris. One is, can you export text from whiteboard? And two, what does the filtering of Google image search, YouTube, etc. look like? Is it customizable? Is it disabled?
Okay, so the second question, I don't have a specific answer for that. Where is that filter being generated? I think, I imagine that it's a proprietary filter that when I say we, Optima corporate on our servers has, because we're hosting that image search. I think we've just applied it proprietarily ourselves. But I can look into that and try to get you an answer on that. In terms of export from the whiteboard, you can take a whiteboard, and I hope this is answering the question. If I want to export this, I can choose to here, I selected the wrong option. I can turn it into and let me zoom so you can see what it is I'm trying to show you. I can turn this whiteboard into a selection of images, or I can create a PDF, right? But so that takes the entire whiteboard, and if I've got multiple pages in my whiteboard file, it'll put each whiteboard page onto a separate PDF page. The
Yeah,
other
to
thing
that
is,
note as well, like you said, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, is the
that's
fact that,
okay.
like you showed earlier with that creativeboard.com, you're able to take these and you also have the ability to continue to annotate on it. So you just saw 3 different ways that he can export and save, but it's not limited to just that. Clearly, you can have it saved on that creative board, able to be edited, able to have substitute teachers access it, all of that. So sorry, Roland.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I mean that using instead of exporting and emailing it, it's easier to just give somebody access to the whiteboard file. You can just send them a link, and then that whiteboard file will open in their browser window, and you can dictate whether they are just a viewer or if they have edit access. And all the whiteboard files on the cloud exist in perpetuity. So we can work on it today in class. You can go home, and if you have edit access, you can make changes later. And then when we log on the next day, we'll find it the way you left it. And the files exist perpetually on the cloud.
Yep. Next question is, browser is Chromium based?
It is. The browser is basically the Chrome browser. It's just been labeled Chromium for some reason. It was just I think a licensing issue, but it is the Chrome browser.
Sure. Jeremy, your question as far as the lifespan of the panel, we do cover them with 3-year standard warranties. However, right now, and this can actually answer your question less as well, working through Bytespeed, we have an additional 2-year warranty built into it free of charge. So you're getting 5 years of that coverage. Like Roland talked about, these things are incredibly resilient. They really don't break down. I don't have a whole lot of issues as far as, I mean, usually sometimes Roland does this thing where he takes his keys and scrapes up on the board, and it gives me stress each time. But they're very durable, they're very reliable, and we do have a additional 2-year warranty we're offering right now through Bytespeed. So that's also the answer to the next question as far as how can I find a local dealer. Jenny and her team are going to be the ones that can be your go-to for that. They're not only limited to just the IFPs, they can sell all of our solutions, and we actually partner with them because they do a great job with all the IT solutions as well. So if you're looking for a full refresh of your school, I could guarantee 95% of that could be covered by either what they can provide or what we can provide. So I'll make sure that we get in touch with you, Les, and make sure that you have that contact information.
Yeah, and just to add, the specification for the lifetime of the panels is 50,000 hours.
Yeah.
Which is
Any
a ton.
other questions? Yeah.
If a school uses a board 5 hours a day, 200 days a year, that's 1,000 hours a year, and they're rated for 50,000 hours. So
awesome. Well, Roland, I appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen for 2 more seconds here as we wrap this up. I do really appreciate you guys taking the time today. Like I said, let's see here if this is going to work.
Yeah, and as John said, we're happy to do. We'll give you a personalized virtual demo. Just get in touch with Bytespeed to schedule it, and we'll kind of talk through your particular needs. You have MacBooks, the kids have Chromebooks. You want to see how it does this. We're happy to do a personalized session for you.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's no problem at all. Again, we're going to send a bunch of follow-up stuff to this. The goal is within the next 24 hours. Ironically, Clever, which I'm sure some of you know, he's fantastic. He ended up taking PTO today, and so he has the follow-up survey, which is going to give you additional information on us, additional information on Bytespeed, and it also will give you the opportunity to win a gift card because we're going to do 2 gift card draws. So if you fill those out, clearly there's not 150,000 people in here, so you got a pretty good chance at winning that. But I'm going to take 30 seconds real quick and talk about our new non-interactive flat panels, which are also a great solution for the larger classrooms or the auditoriums or the digital signage or menu boards. Like I said, that Optoma Management Suite and being able to control all of that with that software has been incredible as far as being able to do these rollouts because you're able to put them in, you're able to label them, like he said, as far as grouping them. We have them in 65, 75, 86, and 98 inches currently, with a 55-inch coming later on this summer. So a lot of the stuff that he talked about as far as the stuff that's built in, aside from a couple of the touch features, clearly are going to be included on these models as well. So Lastly, I'll just one more time hit on the fact that Bytespeed is a great partner of ours. They clearly helped us, host this. They're going to be your go-to as far as pricing goes, as far as rollouts go, and as well as a lot of other IT solutions. So being able to partner with them has been fantastic for us here at Optima. They're one of our best partners. I love traveling with them. If you guys are going to any of your education shows nearby, I'm sure you'll see Jenny or Mai's face. We're trying to hit all of those in every state this year, so it's been a fun time. But if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to reach out. We'll make sure we send a couple different follow-up emails. One of them will contain that survey that does have that the ability to win that gift card. So make sure you fill those out. And we really do appreciate you guys taking some time today. So any last questions here? I don't have the Q&A pulled up. So Jenny, if there's anything popping up, feel free to let us know too. Okay.
Not seeing
No.
anything come in the question.
Good deal. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time. Again, we'll make sure, it looks like Jenny did send out a quick email address you can follow up with as well. So if you have immediate questions, feel free to send those. And like Roland said, if you guys do want a, more detailed version of this, and we can get more into the nitty gritty and detailed questions with your, mics on the whole time, we can do that as well. So thank you guys so much for taking some time today. Hope everyone has a great week, and look forward to connecting with you soon.